Hello, my name is Christy Keeler, and this video will introduce you to the basics of Audacity. Audacity is audio editing software that can be downloaded for free online. Just go to audacity.scourgeforce.net and download from there. What it allows you to do is to import different audio files or create audio files within Audacity that you can then modify so that they include different sounds, or you can have different effects that go along with it. What I'm going to start off with is a little audio file that I had my son create the other day that's the beginning of a digital story, a story about a boy and his grandmother. The way that I started it was by using my video iPod and my iTalk and having my son just speak right into the iTalk. I then synced that iTalk with my iTunes file, and it just automatically downloaded it, and I renamed it Grandma's Satchel. I'm now going to drag that file from iTunes onto my desktop, and now what you see is it's available in WAV format for me to do with what I would like. I'm going to open up Audacity now, separate from iTunes, and I'm going to create a new file. From here, I can just drag in Grandma's Satchel, or I can actually import it. So let me go ahead and import it in audio, and it's on my desktop. And here we have it. So let's hear what Spencer had to say.
Grandma, what is that satchel you have?
And you can hear that and see from the sound waves that part of this is really just dead noise. What Audacity allows me to do is to highlight over whatever I do not want and just hit the backspace or the delete key, and it's gone, just like in a word processor. So I'm going to highlight the beginning and the end of this and delete, so all I have is the part that I want. Audacity also uses these main keys up here, just like what you would have seen in an old cassette recorder. The play button is here, pause, stop, rewind, fast forward, and record. You can click anywhere that you want on Audacity, and that's where it will start speaking from. So if I want to go to the very beginning, I click there, and I can hit my stop button if I want. So now I just have the part of the audio that I've wanted for him to say, but I want more than that. I also want some audio that I'm going to create. So I can record at this point. Because my cursor, my I-bar, which is right here, is at the end, if I start recording, it's going to start recording right there. So let me go ahead and let me record a little bit of a story that I can then modify later. Well, thank you for asking. Let me open up my satchel and see if there's anything special in there that I could share with you today. Oh, here's a memory that I want to share with you. When you weren't even a glimmer in my eye, your grandma and grandpa used to take me out by the fire, and we would sit and sing songs and listen to stories. Do you know what my favorite song was? It was Gene Autry's song, Home, Home on the Range. You want to sing it together? So I've just created a little story, and I could go back and delete it however I want. One thing about this is you can see that the size of the sound waves is quite small, and the reason for that is that it really, I spoke very softly. So if I want to increase that sound, I can just gain the decibel level so it will be louder.
Asking. Let me open up my satchel and see if there's anything special in there that I could share with you today.
And again, you see that there's lots of dead space in here, and I can just go through and delete all that. One problem right now is I'm not seeing everything that's there. One way that I can see it all is I can go to my view, and I can have it fit in the window, so it fits in the length, or I can have it fit vertically. Fitting vertically is what I prefer because it allows me to see the entire audio piece. Right now I had the original track and then the audio track that I have just created. So let's start at the beginning and see what we have.
Grandma, what is that satchel you have?
Asking. Let me open up my satchel.
Okay, and this part, the thank you for asking, got kind of cut off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete that part, but I'm going to add a new section in. Now, what I'm going to do to add that new section is just to create a new track. So I am going to now go up to track, add new, and I am just going to actually go to the end here and start recording. Thank you for asking. And stop. Now if I listen to it over here, it still didn't quite sound right, so I'm going to re-record it again. Let me highlight over this section, delete this entire section, and I'm going to record again. I'm going to give it a little bit of leeway this time to get it started. Thank you for asking. Okay, and now let's listen to it from here, the beginning. Okay, now my problem at this point is that what I want is way over on this side, and I really want it to be over here. I'm going to delete this audio track so you can see it. The way I'm going to move this over is by highlighting it, and I can now use this tool, the time shift tool, and if I click on that, it will allow me to move this to where I want it. So I'm going to put it right here, and you can see that in the yellow that it lines up with the end of Spencer's talking. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to time shift this top part over to the end of that. So now let's listen to it. Let's go back using my I bar so that I can do my selection tool at the very beginning, and let's listen.
Let's open up my satchel and see if there's anything special.
Okay, now clearly one problem is my sound is a little off. It needs to be a little bit louder, and I can go in now and I can add in, make it a little louder if I want, but for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm not going to do that. Some things though that I might like to add are where I talk about opening my satchel. Perhaps I want to have a little zipper noise, so let's find out where I say I'm going to open my satchel.
Memory that I want to share with you.
Oh, let's go back a little bit. I have to find exactly where it is.
There's anything special in there that I could share with you today. Oh.
Okay, so it's right about in here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so I can see the part, because I need to find exactly where I want to place that.
Special in there that I could share with you today. Oh, here.
So this O is where I have my change. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my cursor right between the end of that text and the beginning of this text so I know where it is. And what I'm also going to do, I see that it's at about 12.0. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring in a sound effect that I found called a zipper opening. The way that I found this was by simply going online and looking for, doing a search for sound effects MP3, and I just happened to find this one, and it has lots of different sounds in it. You can click on them and you can download them or play those sounds. Another way that you can download them is by going into iTunes, and if you go into their iTunes store, you can do a search for sound effects, and you can buy an album or individual effects for about 99 cents a piece or $9.99 for the entire album. So those are some ways that you can get them. So I have this sound effect that I want to bring in, and I want to put it about there at 12.0. So I'm going to take the zipper one and I'm just going to drag it onto my Audacity file. Now let's look at the entire audio recording right now, and what we can see is that the zipper part is a little longer than I wanted. So I wanted it about that 12 point. I'm going to delete a whole bunch of it because I don't need it. And also, if we listen to this zipper, it has a whole bunch of zipper parts, but they don't all, they are separated. So let's listen to what it sounds like. And you can hear that I'm only hearing this one at this point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete some of these extra sounds and these silences in between the different zippers. I'm going to delete all that, and then I'm going to use my time shift tool, and I'm going to move this to about that 12 seconds where I was opening up my satchel. So now let's go back here and let's listen to it.
Special in there that I could share with you today. Here's a memory that I want to to share with you.
Okay, and I really probably need to get rid of this last one as if I found it. And then I'm going to go on and I start talking about a fire. So I've also found a campfire sound that I can add. And so let me add that in over here. Let's see where it was.
Grandma and Grandpa used to take me out by the fire.
Okay, so about here, probably about 22 seconds is when I can add in my fire. I'm going to bring in that sound effect. It'll add it right to the bottom. Again, I need to see it all together. And it's way down here. And I don't need that much fire. I probably only need about this much fire. I'm going to take that fire then, and I'm going to move it over to about the 22-second mark. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make it much quieter. So if I click here and we listen to what's going on, it's going to sound quite loud.
Special in there that I could share with you today. Oh, here's a memory that I want to share with you. When you were even a glimmer in my eye, your grandma and grandpa used to take me out by the fire and we would sit and sing songs and listen to stories. Do you know what my favorite song was? It's June Autry's song, Home, Home on the Range.
So actually that sounds pretty good. I don't need it to be any quieter. But there is one more element that I want to create. And you can tell by now that it's getting very messy in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all, go to Edit, Select All, and I'm going to make these all condensed into one track. Once I do that, I'm not going to be able to separate them again. So let me go ahead and mix and render. And it's all now one. And let me view a bit vertically, and let's listen.
Grandma, what is that satchel you have?
Thank you for asking. Let's open up my satchel
And see how the top part is much louder? I can now go into this section here if I want, and I can increase that volume if I would like. But I'm not going to worry about at this point. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add one more element. I'm going to add that song that I mentioned, Gene Autry's song, at the very end. So I'm going to drag it in, and let's view fit vertically again. I can see the whole thing. Now I'm not going to want the whole song, but I do want the beginning of the song. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to move it, but a little bit at the end here. And I'm going to delete most of it because I don't need it all. So I'm not looking at quite so much music. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to decrease this audio so it diminuendos over time. The way that I'm going to do that is by clicking on my envelope tool. If I click on the envelope tool, it will allow me to decrease the sound, and I can continue to decrease it until I can make it go down to virtually nothing. And I can also have it lowered at the very beginning too. So let me now take my time shift tool again, and I'm going to move this right to the end. And let's back up a little bit and let's listen to what we've created here at the end.
song, Home, Home on the Range. You want to sing it together?
So you could hear at the end that it diminuendoed. Again, I'm going to mix and render, put all my tracks together. So I actually have one, oops, I need to select all first. I'm going to mix and render, put them all together into one. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to export this. Right now, if I just save it, it's going to save it. It's going to save it to my desktop, but it's going to save it as an Audacity file. And you can see right here, Audacity sample. I don't want to save it as an Audacity file because other people won't necessarily be able to open that unless they have Audacity. What I'd prefer is to use something like an MP3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to export it, and I'm going to export it in the format of MP3. I'm going to go ahead and save it. And it sometimes will take a few moments because it is having to render it and change it into a new format. And then we'll find it right here. I've got my MP3. Now, if I want to listen to it on my iPod or share it with others, I can just bring it into my iTunes, and then I can listen to it in there.
Grandma, what's in that satchel you have?
Thank you for asking. Let me open up my satchel and see if there's any.
And that is how you use the basics of Audacity. Thank you for joining me.